Brock, how did you get into recruiting?
So, I don't know if this will be a long, boring story, but it is a long story. So I'll try to shrink it down for you. So when I was in college, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. I had an inkling that I wanted to be in sales. I knew a guy, this guy's my savior, who he knew that I had a car and he didn't have a car. And that guy kind of had his stuff together and I less so at that time. He called me once to say, are you going up to the job fair at George Mason University? I didn't even know what that was. And I definitely didn't know that there was going to be a job fair anytime soon. So I said, I don't know, I guess, how does that work? And he said, well, if you drive me there, I'll help you put together a resume and so on. So long story short, the two of us go up to this job fair. I had no idea what to expect. It was mostly sales related positions. And there was a staffing firm there, and that was Aerotek, which now most people know as Allegis Group.
Yep.
Multi-billion-dollar, large private staffing firm. And so the rest is history. I interviewed on the spot and then did a couple more interviews and went to work there. And I worked there for about a year and then left there to start up CMI.
Fantastic. So talk me through, you're in this career fair. There's lots of companies exhibiting to try and recruit grads, presumably, to come and join their firm. And why did you gravitate to Aerotek and like out of everything else in the room?
So they had a group of young people that looked, kind of similar in age to me. And they looked kind of like, I don't know how to say it, but young and fun and whatever. It just like that booth had more energy than the other booths did.
Yeah, makes sense.
But when it said staffing, I had no clue what that was. So anyhow, I talked to them for a while and I continued to be enthusiastic about working more so with those people than doing the job of recruiting.
Okay, got it.
And so then, multi-step interview process, I get hired. I was in a training class of 65 people. Wow. And I remember in that training class of 65, one of the first things that the trainer said was, raise your hand if you don't know what this job is or what staffing is. And almost everyone raised their hand, including me.
That's awesome. Wow. So even after you got the job, you weren't 100% sure what it is you were supposed to be doing.
Correct.
Wow. That's fantastic. All right. So, but you launched your own firm after only what, two years?
11 months.
Wow. You are super confident. Holy cow. Like 11 months in, going from, I don't even know what staffing is to, I'm going to launch my own recruiting firm. What happened in those 11 months that made you so confident?
So I had a friend and I really, I owe a debt to a bunch of people for the early days of CMI. But while I'm sitting there recruiting, and it was telecom technicians, and I wasn't doing the sales part of staffing. This was contract staffing. So they split the role into there's sellers and there's recruiters. And I was a recruiter. And so I was recruiting telecom technicians, and I can only, tell you halfway what those people do at this point in time, right? But anyhow, I had a friend who calls me and says, hey, my company's looking for salespeople. Does your company play salespeople? And we didn't. And I said, no. And he said, well, we're looking for salespeople and we offer referral fees if anybody refers to somebody that we hire in sales. And my first thought was like, what he was saying was not congruent with my understanding of how staffing worked, mostly because I had never seen a perm deal happen in my life.
Right.
And so I was like, his name was Eric. I was like, Eric, I don't think you know how this works. So, it's different than what you think. And he was like, well, look, we hire entry-level people for sales jobs. Okay. And if they hire someone you send over, they will pay you a referral fee, if you get signed up with them, and I will make that happen. So I was like, all right, well, sounds like it could be pretty simple and straightforward. So long story short, I ended up doing that, sending a handful of just my friends to interview at this place. They hired one of them, and I was going to get paid a fee and a referral fee. And it was literally within a week of that, another friend of mine said, hey, I heard that you referred some people over to Eric's company. My mom is the head of HR for a company that looks for the same kind of people. You should contact my mom and see if they're still looking right now. And I was like, okay, yeah, sounds like a good idea. Contact his mom. And it was literally within a pretty short time frame, the same thing happened again. I sent her partly some of the same group of people, and they hired one of them. And at that point, I thought to myself, wow, I wonder if there's like a whole bunch of companies out there that need to hire salespeople. It sounds hilarious to say out loud right now. And if so, maybe that could be my full-time job. That was kind of how the mental steps went. So it was definitely not a lot of strategy, planning, not even sure you could call it confidence at that point, right? I was just 23 years old. So there was a little bit of like, I don't have a lot of responsibility and what have you. So I decided if I can call a bunch of companies and get one more customer, if that's what I could call the first two, then I would leave and do this full time. And that was the scenario for me. So we had one day a week where you could leave early, 4 p.m. And I rushed over to a friend's place who lived close by, and I just cold called a bunch of companies, and one of them said yes, and that was it. So I made my decision from there, and I quit my job shortly afterwards and set up shop, like left on a Friday, started on a Monday, and that's
So,
the
Brock,
story.